Welcome to Yin. Today we are going to, like I just mentioned, release the lower back. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start laying down on our backs. If you have a blanket or a towel, go ahead and roll it up or fold it up so that it supports the space of your lumbar spine. So that way there's no space between your low back and the floor, but you're not tucking your tailbone under to make that connection happen to the floor. Instead, it's just getting support from your prop. If you have a pranayama pillow, that also will work really great. Oh, it'll look something like this. And you may notice that your sacrum, your tailbone even, are lifted away from the floor like mine are. That's totally fine. You just want pressure, some support right in the lumbar. And then decide how you'd like your legs. Sometimes it can feel really nice to widen the feet as wide as the mat and let the knees fall in. You can extend the legs long or find your butterfly. Honestly, I'm going to suggest the internal rotation. So that's going to be feet wide, knees together. And then while you're here, take a moment to tuck your shoulder blades beneath you, broadening your collarbones. And then notice where your hands would like to fall. They might turn palm up by doing this. Arms extend away from the body. Or perhaps you keep that same rotation through the upper arm, but then hinge at the elbows and notice how the palms rest very nicely at your tummy area. And then lift up your toes and then fan them out on the floor. Maybe drum your fingers. Noticing any energy in the toes and the hands. Let the eyes close if they haven't already. And then if your hands are on your belly, I'd like you to go ahead and make a mudra, connecting the tips of the index fingers to each other and then the tips of the thumbs to each other, and let the rest of the fingers fan out. Laying that diamond-shaped frame somewhere in the abdomen. It may be more of the solar plexus around the navel, maybe more down towards the pelvis. Just notice where that is. Begin deepening your breaths. As you inhale, you may notice the tips of the fingers and thumbs separate away from each other just a little. And as you exhale, everything comes back together as the belly lowers down. If you're feeling anxious at all, one good thing that you can do to help yourself is actually to move your hands up towards the space just between the rib cage and then stack your hands. Letting there be natural weight there, but as you inhale, the hands begin to slide apart. So they do sort of this kind of a motion. Then you can really focus on that motion, the sensation of it, rather than the breath, rather than the anxiousness that you may feel in that area in your chest. No matter where the hands are, whether they're on the floor, the low belly, or the upper chest, I guess mid-chest, upper ribs, just notice sensation. The sensations that are secondary to the breath. Normally we think of sensations with the breath as just the rise and fall of the chest, or the sensation of the nostrils, the airway, the mouth. But now we're going to notice all the other places that are affected. The slight movements of the hands, the fingers, separation of the rib cage that causes the hands to move apart. Maybe even a tertiary awareness comes in, and that's the back body. As you inhale, can you feel a little more pressure into the support that you have under your lumbar spine? Maybe you even feel your tailbone beginning to round down towards the floor. Back body getting heavier, almost looking for roots into the ground. And just notice what else is present. If the mind is busy, you can acknowledge that, even repeating to yourself, the mind is busy. If the mind is still, do the same. Saying to yourself, the mind is still. Honoring whatever status, whatever mode the mind is in. The types of thoughts. And then begin to relate that to the physical body. What about your heartbeats, your heart rate, pulse? Steady. Can you imagine that these intentional breaths, this intentional thought process can slow the heart rate down? Perhaps where your hands are placed, you can even feel pulse. Let that pulse become a little slower, still supplying the body with blood, life, but with more ease and less effort, allowing the nervous system to rest, the body to find relaxation. Perhaps even saying to yourself, I am becoming more and more relaxed. I am more and more relaxed. Letting your mantra here begin to change until it can become, I am relaxed. Until you feel peace and ease of the body and mind. Notice anything that you need to shed or let go of for this to happen. If only for an hour, set it aside. I promise you, whatever it is will be waiting for you later, so just set it aside for now and be where you are. Allowing the breath to be natural. breathing in whatever rhythm the body wants. You pay little attention to it. Instead, just noticing your emotional climate, any sensations that the body is giving you, perhaps telling you, asking for things. Might be time now to find a stretch. So let's go ahead and begin to heel toe the feet back towards each other so they're in line with the hips. Let's reach the arms overhead for a nice long stretch of the upper body. If it would feel good for you, you can begin to press into the feet, squeeze through the glutes, and lift up through the pelvis. And while the hips are lifted, take the hands, remove your prop, and then roll the spine all the way down, letting each bit connect to the floor. Bring one knee into the chest, and then the other. And let the arms be straight, almost as if the knees are trying to pull your arms away from the shoulder sockets. Notice if there's a little space where that prop was. And maybe as you bring the knees closer, that space disappears. You can find where it feels really good for you. It may feel good to be really rounded and hug the knees in, or maybe you need that little space. Whatever it is, just pause here a moment. You don't have to be completely still. You can move through the feet, the toes, maybe even a little through the neck. Moving the head from right to left. Slowly and completely. Leaving any tension that may have been held there. And then maybe you begin to stir the knees around in one direction or the other. You can also rock from side to side. And just take a moment here and listen to the body. My body was asking me to straighten my legs, so I did. If your body's asking you to do the same, do the same. Reaching the heels up towards the sky, getting a good stretch behind the legs. And then when you're ready, come up to a seated position. Now, you can certainly roll over onto one side and then find your seat from there, or you can rock and roll up like I did. And then we're going to come all the way forward and find a child's pose. Now, you can do this more traditionally with no support, or you can go ahead and grab your pillow or your bolster and find support there. It really depends on how much rounding, how much stretching you'd like in your low back, how much release would feel good for you. If you know that you're someone that can't round your back a lot, if that causes pain in your low back, I suggest support. That way you can have more of a flat back like I have now. You can also have your knees as wide or as close together as you'd like. So we have options. You can Goldilocks it, you can find out what feels best for you, and then do that. There's absolutely no rush to find yourself in the shape, but once you do find yourself there, let it feel really good. You may notice that you'd like even a rolled up blanket or a towel between the backs of the thighs and the calves. That can give a little bit more support as well. You can tuck the chin and let the forehead come down, stretching, not really stretching, but elongating the back of the neck. I'm going to let you know when we are halfway through this pose shape. That way, if you do have your head turned in one direction or another, you can turn it the other way or make any other adjustments that you'd like. Until then, just let the eyes close. And again, be where you are. If you're a regular student of mine, you know I love my daily yoga quotes. And today's is pretty good, and also pretty annoying because it's true, and isn't that life? You know, sometimes the things that we find annoying or that give us grief, it's only because it's true. I think you'll know what I mean. So it says, planning ahead is both absolutely necessary and completely impossible. And how true is that? You know, we can plan and plan and plan for everything. And we need to. We do need to have plans. Otherwise, everything would just be spaghetti, you know? Be spaghetti noodles. But those plans, most of the time, don't work out exactly like we thought. Sometimes they work out nothing like we thought. And what we can do is allow ourselves to be like the spaghetti, you know? Not the dry spaghetti, but the cooked spaghetti. We can be flexible, you know, we can be willing to be silly, to be adaptable, to be resilient. I think that even more now than ever, we're finding and feeling this. 2020 is not what anyone planned for. You know, we all had plans for this year, and that's a broad statement. We all had plans, and none of it is going how we thought. What are we doing? We're adapting. Our resiliency is becoming so strong. Of course, there's other life situations. You know, if you're a military family, you'll feel this deep in the center of your heart. You know, plans get changed all the time, but maybe not if you're, you know, maybe if you're civilian, there's circumstances for the same reason that have to change. You know, work, life, health. You can get some real curveballs from health, mental and body health. You know, we never expect to be injured, to have a loved one injured or hurt, harmed. But it does happen. So then what? Go ahead and make adjustments. We're halfway through the pose. Settle in. Shift anything you need to shift. So the question is how? How can we still enjoy life, enjoy our circumstance that we didn't ask for, that's maybe given us a lot of trouble, grief even? Well, it's to do the best we can with what we have. great mantra for that is, how can I make today the best I can with what I have? Let it be a real question that you can give yourself real-time answers. So even now, as you are in your child's pose, ask yourself, how can I make today the best it can be with what I have? The situation as is. And whatever that answer is what your answer is. And it's going to change day to day, sometimes hour by hour. But when you feel your resiliency being challenged, that's the question to ask, because that's what's going to keep building it. There's going to be less and less talking from me as we move through the practice. I think I've talked enough, and I think you have enough to think about. So just let the rest of your practice be time to be inside of your own mind. Or maybe outside of it. Maybe you'd like to daydream, to think of lighter things. This is a perfect time for that as well. Begin to find some weight in the hands. Feel the tops of the feet to the floor. You can even move through the fingers and the toes if you're in your child's pose. And then begin to come up into a table. Now, if you have a prop beneath you, go ahead and move it to the side. We will use it probably again later, but for now we don't need it. What we're going to do is we're going to thread the needle. So if you know you prefer this in a child's pose, you can get right back into your child's pose and just take the right hand, slide it under the left shoulder, and rest the head down. Or we can do this in more of a puppy-like shape, and we're going to do the same thing. Right hand sliding under the left arm until the right shoulder and the right side of the head come down. And decide what you'd like to do with this left hand. Maybe you stretch it forward. You can wrap it around the low back. Or you can even interlace the fingers and then sort of find a press and a straightening through the left arm. Notice what you feel in the low back the whole time you do this, okay? Be very mindful of it. If you need to do less, do less. And just find the shape that your body wants to be in. And let that be enough. Just keep checking in with the mind, noticing the types of thoughts you have or the imagery in your mind. If it is serving you well, keep it. If it's causing you anything negative, shift, readjust, change direction. We're going to begin to exit this pose. So, like any other pose, it's nice to find some movement through the fingers and toes, inviting in some energy. Maybe wiggle through the hips a bit. And then either come back to a regular child's pose if that's where you are, or come back to a table if that's where you were. Notice if there's any other movements the body's asking for to counter that pose, that stretch, the shape that we made. Perhaps some cat-cows as we breathe, rounding through the back, tucking the chin, lifting the tailbone, lifting the heart, lifting the chin. Maybe we find some movements as we find ourselves in either of those two shapes. Bringing all attention, all awareness to the lower back, doing what feels good for the low back. And now we're going to go to the other side. Doing the same thing that you did on the first side, just in reverse. So noting what you did if you were in child's pose and took the left arm under the space of the right, just like that. Or if you did it from more of a heart melt or puppy-like shape, from table, left hand under, hips high. Finding whichever version of this pose works well for you. And then giving yourself time there. Giving yourself space, stillness, rest. take a few more easy breaths here. Preparing again to move to transition. Inviting in not just energy so that we can find a different shape, but also clarity of the mind. As you feel ready, finding yourself in table. Again, moving. Eyes closed or opened. Tucking the toes. Go ahead and change the directions that the fingers are facing. Stretch through the wrists. Move through the low back. Maybe drawing big circles with your tailbone. Noticing when you need to pull the belly in to help use your abdominal muscles to complete the circle. And then come down to forearms. Stretch your legs behind you. Find your Sphinx pose. Now you can use a prop if you'd like to have a supported Sphinx pose. And you would just place that under the rib cage. That's going to help you take weight out of the shoulders, the elbows. The more you have your prop back towards the pelvis, the more of the back bend you're going to experience. I would suggest using a prop such as a block or something block-like. That way you can tuck the chin and place the forehead on it. Let the back of your neck be long. If you don't have a prop that you feel like you would like to have under your body, you would just rather be more traditional Sphinx, that's fine. This is your practice. You're doing a traditional Sphinx. Elbows are on the shoulders. Fingers are spread wide and the heart is pulling forward. Shoulder blades together and down the spine. Tops of the feet into the ground. Slight tuck of the chin to elongate the neck and to lift the crown. Traditionally in Yin Yoga, we spend a few minutes, sometimes as little as 2 minutes, sometimes as long as 9 or 10 minutes in each shape. The next handful of poses that we're going to do will be on the shorter side, so that allow yourself to welcome and to embrace that bit of movement. If you prefer to stay in one pose longer, you're welcome to. You can always also just lay down on your back and take an early and long Shavasana. And begin transitioning now. Go ahead and bring your elbows wide. And then bring the palms wide as well. So now you're kind of making a goalpost-like shape. And turn your head, we'll start with towards the left. And then begin to draw the left knee up so that it's trying to come towards your left elbow. And now you're in your half frog. Straightening through the left leg. That was a short one. Turn the head towards the right and draw the right knee up now towards the right elbow. Finding another half frog. Straightening through the right leg, bringing your head to center, your elbows back under the shoulders into our Sphinx pose. And from here, I'd like you to begin tapping the tops of your feet to the floor, drumming the fingertips. Preparing to lift the torso away from the floor, coming again to a seat, and then onto our backs. Once you are laying comfortably on your back, soles of the feet together, knees apart, finding a supine butterfly. Now there's an option here. In this supine butterfly, if you would like, you can use either a rolled up blanket or towel or a pillow to find some support the upper back. So I would start your support just at the tips of your shoulder blades. Ladies, where your bra clasps. Gentlemen, where I told you. So just kind of feeling your way there. Again, soles of the feet together, knees apart. If it feels better for you to have some either coverage or weight in the pelvis, you can place a rice bag now or a blanket over the lap. Sometimes even when we are alone and feel completely safe in our space, it can be nice, it can be comforting to have that blanket or that weight. If you don't have an extra prop, the hands work wonderfully. Allow your shoulder heads to pull apart, collarbones pulling in opposite directions, almost as if you're trying to separate the front of the rib cage. Really opening up the front of the heart space, closing the back of the heart space. Whether you have a prop beneath you or not. Deep breath in. Feel the lift of the heart, and let it go, everything softens. You can use your hands to assist, or you can just use the muscles, but try and close the knees towards each other. Bring the feet hip distance apart, maybe even wider, maybe mat distance apart. And drop the knees from one side to the other, nice and slow, very controlled. thinking windshield wipers, but not the kind that you use during a heavy downpour. Just the kind when it's misting and you just need a little bit more visibility. Let the knees point up towards the sky. Again, bringing the feet in line with the hips. Begin to lift the right leg up towards the sky. Support behind the leg. You can use a strap if you have one, or just your fingers. Pointing through the toe, flexing through the heel. Noticing sensation as you do so. Now, cross that right ankle in front of the left thigh. Staying here. Maybe grabbing behind the left thigh. Maybe placing a prop under the left foot. Imagine I have one, like a block or something. Lots of options. And from here you can decide if you'd like to stay where you are or make other adjustments. Maybe straightening through the left leg, moving through that foot. It'll get its turn here in a minute, but a little extra love is okay. Maybe even experimenting with tiny movements side to side, noticing what that does for the low back, as well as the core. You have to engage and use it. Deep inhale. And a slow but complete exhale. Left foot down, right foot up towards the sky. Again, pull towards the chest, cross over the center line just a bit, not much. Pull the toes back. I think I had a leaf stuck to my toe. Good. Now place the right foot down. Left leg lifts up. Same thing on this side. Little hamstring stretch, but it's also stretching through the glute, the low back. Pointing and flexing. Pointing so much you feel a stretch along the top of the ankle. Flexing enough that you feel more engagement, as well as more stretch behind the leg. Maybe a roll through the ankle if that feels good, very gently. And then crossing that ankle in front of the right thigh. Noticing what you feel and where. Maybe stepping on a block with that right foot, or even grabbing behind the right thigh and pulling that right thigh along with that left foot towards the chest. That left knee will naturally begin to pull away from the body. You can even imagine the thigh is spiraling. And then same thing on this side, perhaps that right leg straightens towards the sky. Point and flex a little more. The pull that we have with our arms is a wood element, so can you imagine a branch either being moved by the wind, or maybe a branch being held by a human? You begin to bend it just a bit, you feel the tension in it. That's the tension we have here. Pull too hard and snap and break. Let go too fast can cause a little bit of whiplash there. So moving slowly and gently as we use this element always. Allow the knee to bend. And the right foot to come back down to the floor. Left foot back up towards the sky, hands behind the thigh. Another little hamstring stretch, low back stretch. And then make sure that both hips are heavy to the floor as we let the left foot now cross our center line. And then we pull those toes towards the right shoulder. You might notice some Christmas tree lights lighting up right about here. We're not here long. Back to center. Place the feet down. Good. Notice if there's any crunching. Go ahead and move through the feet, through the ankles. Bring the feet wide on the mat. Let the knees fall in together. Option to stay where you are, or to grab a block or a prop that you had underneath your back and keep it there, or you can move it to the side or use it somewhere else. I'll demonstrate a couple different ways of doing that. So we're laying on our backs with our knees bent, feet flat. We're going to find supported bridge, and you can do this with a block or with that blanket, and just placing it under the sacrum. And then we're going to find either this supported bridge, more of a rainbow shape if we straighten our legs, or we can lift both legs up towards the sky. You can have the knees bent as much as they need to be, but notice what you'd like to do here. Either way, we're having a lot of support, a lot of grounding through the sacrum. Whatever other types of shapes you'd like to make is up to you. So be creative, take freedom there. Again, tucking your shoulder blades, letting the front of the body, front of the torso, open. Notice the pelvis in whichever shape you've taken. If you've extended the legs long, you have a nice open pelvis. If the hips have flexion, whether the knees are bent and feet are flat, or whether the feet are up towards the sky, there's closure there. Whatever you've chosen, just be in, and just breathe in. Be aware. Letting everything you choose be with intention, for a reason. If you find yourself in a shape and you think, I don't really know why I've chosen this, it doesn't feel that great, choose something else. You're never trapped. Do what feels good. Only 3 more breaths in whichever position you put your body into. Those breaths can be as slow or as quick as you'd like. And then you're going to exit this. So letting the feet come flat to the floor is a good way to do so. That way you can push into the floor, slide your prop out, and let the body come in contact with the earth. It's time now for our Shavasana. So if you have a way that you like to position yourself for Shavasana, to make sort of a recliner chair with blocks and bolster, to have something beneath the knees and a blanket, go ahead and do that. Get super cozy. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, or you just want to be easy today, just stretch the legs long and apart to the corners of the mat, and then let the toes fall out wide. Do the same with the arms. Bring the arms off the mat. Maybe the elbows can feel the corners of the mat, maybe not. Maybe you're more of a pentacle pose, more of a star shape. Palms up or palms down, depending on your comfort. A slight tuck of the chin. Broadening up the collarbones, a little tuck of the shoulder blades beneath you. Let there be rest in the belly. We're not engaging, we're not using any muscles. This shape, this pose, this time is all about rest. Perhaps using the same mantra pattern that we did at the beginning of our practice, noticing your current energy level, current level of restfulness or ease that you feel. Stating it, acknowledging it, each breath. And then as it changes, as you feel more relaxed and at peace, also let your mantra change to reflect it until you are peace, you are rest. Let your mind become a little more alert. Begin to think about the rest of your day. Begin to plan it even. It can be down to the hour, down to the minute that you have to either accomplish, things you need to prepare for. Letting them be in your mind. And then at the end end of the day, tonight, reflect back on what went as planned, what didn't, and without a sense of judging or frustration, just awareness, notice that. Planning can be a really great tool for us to be able to focus. If we stay too focused on it, we can become very rigid, like uncooked spaghetti. If we're able to allow the change, allow the adaptations to happen, we can be more flexible. We become that cooked spaghetti. Begin to move with the hands and the feet, the wrists and the ankles. And stretch the arms overhead. Get as long as you can. Good morning stretch. And then roll over onto one side. Perhaps reflecting on your practice, or the fact that you had to think of yourself today as pasta. Letting yourself smile as you sit up into a seated position. You can sit any way that's comfortable for you. Once you get there, let your eyes be closed, chin slightly tucked so the back of the neck is long, smooth. Bring hands to heart center. Thank you so much for practicing with me. It's always a gift for the student and the teacher to have connection. And in these times, we don't get to be in person, but we still get to be present with each other. The light in me sees the light in you, and I honor that. Namaste.